Good morning, friends. So, welcome to another cloudy, rainy, but a beautiful morning from the from some valley in Himalaya. And it was raining heavily all night, and it has stopped just right now. So, as you can see, the valley to my back, everywhere actually, it is like everything is looking very neat and clean because of the rain. Everything is like washed in rain. It is looking very neat and clean, and everything is glowing with the rain ka glow, if you know what I mean. So today is a day for question and answers, and I thought this would be a beautiful morning to do that. So without wasting any time, let us jump straight into it. And thank you for the response to the previous video. I have two questions today, two or three questions, depending on the time I take. So without wasting any time, let us jump straight into the questions. Okay. So the first question is from my friend Prasad Natarajan, and the question goes like this. Shooting in low light conditions, if we increase the ISO, the images become grainy. If we don't, the subject is moving and we get blurry images. So how do we tackle such situations? And so basically, I'm pretty sure this must have happened with you. This has happened with me a lot, that I'm in a forest and I'm trying to shoot some wildlife. The light is pretty low, and then I have to choose between whether I want a grainy image or probably not an image at all, because at low shutter speeds wildlife tends to move and we might not get a proper shot. So the technique, I can suggest you one technique which I have used in two or three occasions. But here I would like to talk about the first image which I made using this technique, and it was the image of a Koklas pheasant. So I went to a place, and I had earlier seen Koklas pheasant, but that evening, it was a cold winter evening around December or Jan, and this Koklas pheasant male came and perched on a rock. So I was standing at a place, out of nowhere this Koklas pheasant came and perched on a rock, and the rock was situated in a way that uh, it was like in the open, and the mountains in the background were like kilometers away. So basically, it was on an open perch. There were no distractions. The background, if I shot with my 400 would be very creamy. So it was perfect for a subject to just come and just stand up there. The only problem was that it was around 5:36 in the evening, and in winters, 5:36 is almost dark. So I was on a tripod, I was shooting some landscapes, and suddenly this guy popped out and stood up on the rock. I was like, how do I shoot it? So I tried shooting it. I was on a tripod, but I was getting very low shutter speeds. I was on ISO of 2000. My aperture was at 6.3, but I was getting a shutter speed of like around less than 1/10 of a second, something like that. And I did not want to increase the ISO to beyond 2000, because that would produce a lot of grain noise in the image. So coincidentally, the day before I came there, I was reading a technique which I learned. I saw a video on YouTube about a technique which some wildlife photographer in US, he was talking about the technique, and I saw it the day before I went to this location. So suppose today I studied about that technique. Tomorrow I went to the location, and I was in this situation. I shoot on a crop sensor body, and I knew that if I increase my ISO beyond a certain limit, it will produce a lot of noise. My ISO was 2000. I underexposed by 2 stops. So doing this got me a shutter speed of around 1/30th, 1/40th of a second, and since I was on a tripod and my hands are quite steady, so I was able to take pretty decent shot of that Koklas pheasant. Later in post-processing, I brought up the exposure by 2.5 stops. I did some noise reduction, and as you can see, the image has come out to be pretty well. So this is one technique which I use, underexposed by underexposed to a point till you get a decent shutter speed, and then later in post processing just increase the exposure back to normal and do noise reduction, and I think it works pretty well with the camera sensors which we have nowadays. So I think you can implement this technique. Anybody can implement this technique in the field if you're working with wildlife and stuff. But you should also be sure that you don't increase your ISO beyond a certain limit, because if you do that, you should know the limitations of your camera sensor. Because if you increase your ISO beyond a certain limit, then you're underexposed by whatever stops, and then later in post processing, if you try to bring it up, the image may look very, very, very horrible. So just keep that in mind, and I think this technique works pretty well with any subject, wildlife subject you're trying to shoot. Of course, the subject has to cooperate, and of course, fortunately, I got a little bit of time with the subject. The subject spent like from 15 to 20 minutes with me. So that is what I would do in a situation like this. So coming to the second question now. The second question, this question came a long time back, but since I stopped doing Q&A, I could not answer this question. So, but still, I get this question. I get asked this question a lot, so I thought I should address this. So the question is from Will Baxter Bray, and the question is, what was your first birding camera, and what camera do you recommend to people who start out with? So let us first talk about my birding camera. So as such, I did not have any birding camera as such. I had only one camera, and this is my second camera. My first camera was a Canon 550D, and I got that in the year 2011 December. And if you know, the 550D had a maximum frame rate of 3.9 frames per second. So that was the only camera I had when I started. And when I came to in the Himalaya after quitting my corporate job, so that was the camera I had for doing all my professional landscape and wildlife work. And for the first 2.5 years, that was my camera. And I got pretty decent images with that camera, landscape and wildlife, both in challenging light situations, in low light conditions. And compared to this camera, compared to the cameras we have nowadays, the autofocus of the camera was pretty bad. The noise performance at high ISO was pathetic. I won't say pathetic, but it was really, really bad. Still, I was able to make pretty decent images, and I shot with it for 2.5 years, and I made some of my most beautiful images from that camera. Coming to the second part of the question, which camera would I recommend? So, in my personal recommendation, any camera that you can afford right now, whether it be a basic DSLR or if you can afford to buy a high-end camera, any camera that you can buy right now is the best camera you can use for doing wildlife photography. I say this because I shoot Himalayan birds. Himalayan birds are like mostly this small in size, most of them, and they are very quick. And I have shot those subjects for 2.5 years using my 550D. So I think any camera that you can buy right now is the camera you can use for shooting wildlife. Because all the cameras which come nowadays, from a basic entry-level DSLR or a mirrorless camera to a high-end camera, all have an autofocus system and a noise performance that is far, far better than the camera which I had. And I think more important than that, if you really want to invest in something, invest in the lens, the glass which is in front of the camera. I think that is what makes all the difference. So when I got my 550D for the lens, I chose a 400mm f5.6 prime lens for that. I've seen that having a pretty decent lens in front of your camera makes all the difference. My lens is pretty decent in focusing, actually pretty quick in focusing, and in that price range, it is the sharpest lens I have come across. Of course, I bought that lens for 5 years back, and technology has now changed. but still it is the best investment which I made. But I would recommend that forget about the camera, forget about that you need a 10 frames per second or 20 frames per second camera to shoot wildlife. I definitely don't think so. But more important than that, more important than anything about the gear is that you have to master your techniques. You have to practice in the field and learn as much as possible about the subject you're trying to shoot. Spend time with the subject as much as possible, whether in your backyard or whether in a forest, wherever you go. More important than the camera or the lens is your practice, your technique, your understanding of the subject. And I think once you start to do that, once you start to invest time in your subject, read about them, study about the subject, invest time in how your camera works, what is the focusing speed, what is the upper ISO range you can go. Learn about your camera, get to know your camera thoroughly, any camera that you have. So suppose for a bird, learn about the breeding patterns, learn about how shy or comfortable they are to human presence, learn about how you can approach those subjects without spooking them. And of course, you will fail terribly, but I think that is the only way to do wildlife photography. You fail consistently, you keep on failing, you keep on failing, you keep on failing, and then comes a day when suddenly everything becomes very easy. So I think the only thing to consider, the camera and I think the camera and lens is secondary. It is the guy or the girl behind the camera that matters. So if I was you, I would stop freaking about the camera which I don't have or which I have, and I would just focus on studying my subject, my animal behavior, trying to understand my camera. And I think if you do that and if you practice consistently on the field, the quality of your images will rise exponentially. And that is what I have done, and that is what I would recommend to anyone starting out. Gear is secondary, you are primary. So these are the questions which I wanted to answer today. And what else do I speak? Oh, there's nothing else to speak. So if you did like this video, please share it to your friends. If you have any questions, drop them in the comment section below, or send me messages on my social media handles. I'll see you in a different video, hopefully from a different valley in Uttarakhand, and see you later.